Day 22 was a big one. We started in Halong Bay, went to Hanoi and ended up in Phu Quoc, Vietnam. There was still some adventuring to be had on Cat Ba Island before we left, but boy, did we take some big blows today. It was a challenging one, and it all started with a little incident involving our drone. 6 a.m. in the morning. It's time to wake up the kids. See how it goes. Rise and shine! Time for adventure. Time for adventure. Hey, 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 hey. Come on, kiddos, up you get. Alright, anybody who's not up and dressed within the next 10 minutes is not going to get any breakfast today. Okay?
Lots of time.
I've tried to give you as much time to sleeping as possible, thanks Charlie. G'day humans, Chris Stead here. Day 22 wrap. I really hope I haven't lost count of the numbers as part of this, but I think it's day 22 wrap, which was not a great day. But, well, it was, look, what happened wasn't great, but the way we handled it, the way I handled it, I don't mean that as in that I did all of the handling, I just mean in terms of that I didn't have a bad reaction. It was good, it was promising. It was a sign that maybe things I've put in place over the last couple of days are starting to help, and maybe I'm starting to chill out a little bit after you know, all the craziness of this year. So we woke up in Halong Bay, had breakfast, it was a beautiful sunrise, everything was going sweet. And then I got the drone out. Thought I'd take a picture of I'd take the drone up and get some sunrise. Anyway, long story short, the drone was working fine, and then all of a sudden just wigged out and said some sort of error on little computer AI voice said something error, and I was like, what? And before I knew it, it just dived into the ocean. So, brand new drone, $1,800. And worst thing, you know, I can replace the drone. Like, money sucks, but I can replace the drone. But the worst thing was, all my Halong Bay footage was still on it. And you know, one of the main reasons I bought the drone was to take some drone footage of Halong Bay, and I'd taken some sick footage, some really, really great footage, like all-time footage. Like I thought 500 meters up above Halong Bay, and I had like full scan. And I was just like, oh man, I'm so upset about this lost footage. I mean, I guess I can repeat it in the future, but yeah. Anyway, so that was the start. But I was like, okay, well, look, you know what, you know, shit happens. Hopefully, I can do something with travel insurance, and I can rebuy the drone somewhere on the trip, and you know, and I've just lost the footage, so. So while the drone was an absolute disaster, our fun in Lan Ha Bay had not ended yet. We jumped on the transfer and made our way this time to the northern end of Cat Ba Island, got off at the docks, jumped on a bus, and we made our way to the Trung Trang Cave. So this cave is situated in the Cat Ba National Park, and it's kind of like through one of the limestone casts that you see as you're going around all the boats. It's really quite cool. So you trek off through the jungle,
and you climb all these steps up the side out of the tree line and right up the side of this kind of cliff face and enter this cave. And then the cave, which is filled with a whole bunch of oddly shaped stalactites and stalagmites, then burrows 300 meters through the mountain and you exit on the other side. So it's not kind of one of those caves where you kind of go in, circle around and come back out the same entrance. You actually go right through the heart of the mountain. And that involves a lot of kind of very tight passages, lots of crawling, for me anyway, at my size. Lots of like trying to move your body through tight spaces. And it'd open up into these huge areas. It was all well lit and it was pretty free flowing and pretty much just free to go through it. And it was a real cool adventure with the kids. We had a lot of fun.
I have to. Oh, wait. Oh, bat, Mum, bat. Oh, bat, Mum, it just flew over your shoulder.
I'm not sure how Dad's gonna get through that bit.
Oh, look, it's the bit where the guy can squat.
And eventually kind of, make it out the other side and back into the jungle. And you got to work your way all the way back down the hill before going back to the bus. And apparently the caves were actually used during the Vietnam War. So it was a place that kind of basically turned into a hospital. It was also a place you could go and safely ride out any bombings. So it has a history there as well. And overall, it was a great way to end our 2 nights, 3 days in Lan Ha Bay. And I know there's a lot of debate out there about whether to do 1 day or 2 day or Halong Bay or Lan Ha Bay, but I can absolutely vouch for the 2-day experience. I think it's worth the investment. You get so much more out of the experience. And Lan Ha Bay was just, relatively quite uncrowded, easy to get around, and yeah, it was such a good time. So that did spell the end of it, which meant it was time to go back to the city proper and leave our tropical paradise behind and get on a transfer back to Hanoi.
Alright, back on the road after 3 cracking days in Halong Bay. What do we think, guys?
100 out of 10.
100 out of
10 out of 10. But yeah.
Jazzy?
Huh?
What do you think of Halong Bay?
I thought it was pretty.
Did you have fun on the cruise?
Yeah.
Any particular highlights, Jazz?
Speedboats.
Oh, you like the speedboat too? That's awesome.
Yeah.
It was very relaxing.
Relaxing on the speedboat.
What do you reckon, Charlie?
I like the speedboat, it's really fun. And I also like jumping off the boat. Because I did a massive belly flop.
It's a really good experience. Check out our driver. Playing a video game while driving us to the airport. No seatbelts in this thing. Now, we had nowhere to stay that night at this point. We had decided the day beforehand to buy tickets to Phu Quoc, because central Vietnam was supposedly flooding, although after we bought the tickets, we bumped into another tourist who had just come from Hoi An, which was supposed to be flooded, and said, no, it's sweetheart, there's nothing wrong. So that was a bit frustrating, but because I really wanted to show the kids in particular way, which is, as in HUE, which is, it was awesome when I was there 14 years ago. So we bought these tickets, but the internet was so bad, it kept kind of like sketching out and saying, no, error, no, error, no, error. And eventually we bought these tickets on Bamboo Airlines, which I was like, that's a pretty, it's like naming your ship Paper, or what's that one from The Simpsons? Clown Airlines. But yeah, so anyway, we got Bamboo Air, which was actually, it was great. Bamboo was really good. It was really good. Considering it was super cheap, and they still, it was really good. It was better than the super cheap other airlines I've caught. Then we checked the credit card, and they had charged us 3 times. So every time it was wigging out, they was charging us again it was charging us, but saying it hadn't charged. So now we've got to go through this same with the credit card. I don't know what we're going to do there, but we've been basically bought the same tickets 3 times in a row. So that's put us another. So after the drone, that was $1,800 on the drone. That was another $700 we lost on the airline tickets. So it was a bit more. So that wasn't great. But we still had nowhere to stay, and we couldn't get enough like the phone reception out in Halong Bay, the phone and the internet. So the internet on the cruise boat and the phone, just normal phone, just wasn't working enough to just kind of just like find enough, compare enough places and make a decision. So we had nowhere. We got to the mainland, got on the transport, had a 3-hour drive back to Hanoi, and we were just on the computer just trying to find somewhere. Anyway, we're on Agoda, and man, like, Agoda is frustrating, hey, because it's they tend to have the best prices. Like you do a comparison across all the different platforms, and Agoda tends to have the best prices, but they just keep screwing us over. Like we keep like, this is the second time. So basically, what happened was we ended up booking the Best Western. Well, I'm going about getting like a cheap villa or a cheap something like that or whatever, and then my wife just kind of pointed out, well, look, you know what, Phu Quoc is a resort destination. Like that's why people go there, so why don't we go there? We've just been, kicking it for 10 days. Why don't we, break the trip up and do a resort stay? So we found a pretty good price at the Best Western. It was on special 5-star place, right on the beach. Thought, yeah, okay, let's do it. So we booked it for 5 nights. Then we're talking to the people about transfers, because like we kind of got the tickets and then we get to the airport and we're waiting for the plane. So we booked it in, and then we're trying to make sure that someone, because the airport transfer was included, we're trying to make sure that someone knows that we're going to be off the plane in like 2 hours. It was a pretty quick turnaround. And they come back and we're here to welcome you and your 4 adults. And we're like, well, we're not 4 adults. We've got a booking for 3 adults and 2 kids. You're looking at the right booking. And they were, but Agoda had sent them the wrong details. And then when we got here, they had put us in this room for 4 adults, and there was nowhere for we were a bed short. And then they're like, okay, well, you're going to have a spare bed then, and we're going to charge you an additional $350 for the spare bed. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? We booked for 5. Like you're supposed to supply 5 beds. That's what we booked for. Here's the booking form. And then we spent like 3 hours on back and forth with Agoda. So this is before we got on the plane. We're already having a go with Agoda. And then we got on the plane, so lost reception for 2 hours. Then got off the plane. Someone was there to pick us up. Got to the hotel and having a big chat to the guy there. I won't say argument because it wasn't really an argument. I was just saying, look, man, like, I understand this wasn't your fault, but this is not what we booked. So they ended up putting us in this room, and Patty's sleeping on like a couch, but it's not even a couch. It's just like basically just a cushion on like a rattan style, like wicker cushion thing that's just hard as a rock and not supposed to be a bed. So he's just sleeping on that, and I'm just looking at it just going, how is this a 5-star resort experience? Apparently this is what you get at a 5-star Best Western. We got here and they made my son sleep on this shitty little rattan couch, which is also supposed to be our couch for 5. Shower. Drain blocked. Flooded. He can't stay there for the next 5 days. This is in the living space, but also none of the photos are what's on Agoda. Like, it's completely different. It's a completely different space. And furthermore, we were supposed to be in the 3-bedroom suite. That was the one we were booking because we were like, we really need some space after the last 10 days we've been living on top of each other. I need to get the kids separated, because they're just fighting too often. So I was like, great, if I get this 3-bedroom suite, it had a king in one suite, me and my wife, queen in another, put the young bloke in there. He's been kind of like shit kicking it, slept on his couch, hasn't had the greatest run. And then I put my 2 oldest in the single beds in another room, because that's like, they're sweet, they'll read books, they're not going to fight. So it's going to be great, right? We're going to have some space, we're going to have a 5-star experience. you know, it's going to be good. And we get into this room, and the photos are all different. It's only 2 bedrooms. There's a whole entire bed missing. They're trying to charge us $350 more, which was more than a quarter of the cost of the whole 5 days. Because they're like, well, our prices are higher, more expensive than Agoda. And I'm like, okay, but I didn't book through you, did I? Anyway, then I ended up speaking to the manager on the phone, who's just got home to her house, and she's like, oh, can we deal with it in the morning? I'm like, yeah. So anyway, so Agoda just keeps telling us that it was our fault, and it's like, no, it clearly states that you know, you're booked, that the 5th person doesn't get a bed, and that you have to pay more once you get there. And we're like, show us where it says that on the booking. Show us where it says that, because we've got one. We've got the confirmation here. It doesn't say that anywhere. It just says 5 people, this amount. And then we get here and we have this big discussion. Yeah. So then we're like, well, obviously we've got nowhere to stay tomorrow night, because we can't stay here, because I really want my son to have a bed, and it's not going to work for us if he's camped out in the living space and we're here for 5 days trying to relax and paying a lot of money for that kind of experience. So, and then on further to that, we got out and we got here, it's a ghost town. Like, there was no one here. Like, we walked to the end of the resort and back and didn't see another human being, which seems to be a bit of a trend at the moment. There's a lot of, if you look at the media, or at least what I'm getting sent, the press releases I'm getting sent, and the dialogue I'm having with people, is that it's packed. Everywhere's packed. Like, travel's back, and it's bigger than it was before COVID, and everywhere's working past capacity, and this type of thing. But it's not true. Because what we're doing is we're getting to these places, and half the stuff is not even open. So if you look down here, for example, this place, see how there's no lights on? It's because basically the entire side of the building, like half this resort, there's no one there. And I asked them about it, and they said, oh yeah, we're renovating. But this has happened a few times now, is that they've literally closed half the resort, and then they're at capacity, but really they're not. And there's all these weird cost-saving things going on, I've noticed as well, like not turning the air conditioning on in the hallways, and all the fridges are on really hot, and just like lots of little things like that. So it's just interesting. Like, there's nothing wrong with it, it's just interesting. Anyway, so again, rambling. So the reality is we had a couple of big blows, and at a certain point it looked like between the drone, the plane ticket screw up, and the Best Western guys taking all my money, but they're not supplying the room that I paid for, that I'd basically lost, what, $4,000 in one day to just random bad strokes of bad luck. And you know what? I didn't lose it. I didn't, I didn't just dive into this pit of, here we go again, what a shit year, everything's just freaking going wrong that can go wrong. Didn't make a fool out of myself in front of the kids, which is really important. And I think it's going to be okay. I think the credit card was sorted out with the money. I think that travel insurance should be covering the drone because it's freaking wigged out and killed itself. And I'm going to get this Best Western room sorted tomorrow. And we're going to have a great time. Cheers for watching. I'm Chris Dead, and that's a wrap.